Hello and welcome to the 14th episode of Planetos Podcast, a podcast dedicated to the fans of George R. R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire and HBO's A Game of Thrones. Spoiler warning, this show will cover all material, including the main series, Dunk and Egg, the novellas, Fire and Blood, The World of Ice and Fire, quotes and interviews by George, and episodes of the show and its commentaries and bonus material. I'm one of your hosts, Brett. You can find me on Twitter at HomelyPillow.
And I'm your other host, Travis. You can find me on Twitter at Sir_Travis. We hope you enjoy today's show. So, Brett, Fire and Blood. It's out. It's been out for a couple weeks now. A lot of chatter on Twitter, on Facebook about it. When did you finish it?
I finished it Tuesday morning.
Okay.
Because I was still reading it, Monday, and then,
Okay.
or listening to it,
So just so everyone's aware, we're recording this on Friday, November 30th, but I finished mine, so last Friday, so a week ago. I had some time off around Thanksgiving, and like you and I were talking separately, it was a page turner to me, so I had time to devote to it, but I would just seem to like really get into it. So I'm really excited to kind of just throw up a reaction to it here. We're not going to do an in-depth review. Maybe we'll do that some other time, but we just want to talk about reaction to it. I'm actually following along on the Race for the Iron Throne blog, Stephen Atwell's. I don't know if you follow that, but he's been doing a chapter by chapter or section by section analysis of Fire and Blood, and it's really good. But even while I was reading it, so when I got it the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, I knew I was going to have a lot of thoughts, so I got a pen and paper and I kept that beside me, and I just took copious notes, just some things. But again, we're not going to do an in-depth analysis here. We're going to talk about some of the things we like, some of the things we dislike, some of the things that we thought were interesting, some of the things that maybe foreshadow some stuff in the main series.
See, I did not take notes because I'd never read The World of Ice and Fire. Like, I still haven't read that. So I was like, I didn't know. But I've read through some of the, like, the Sons of the Dragon and all that stuff. And I was like, I don't know what's new material and like what's like, obviously there were some certain things that were obviously new material when I heard it.
Right.
But yeah, a lot of it, I was like, I don't know if this is new or not. So, but I'm definitely going to go back through this in a more depth, manner, analyze it more,
Yeah, it's been a while since I've read The World of Ice and Fire. Actually, I think I read that like when it came out in 2014. I got it, and that was kind of like when I jumped first head deep into the fandom, but I wasn't online yet. I mean, I was online. I wasn't in the fandom online at that point. So to me, The World of Ice and Fire, I'm like you. Like, even though I read it, I don't remember much from it. I mean, I remember stuff because of like what Aziz and Radio Westeros and Aziz and Radio Westeros have covered from it and talk about from it. But I would say Fire and Blood, just so what I did is while I was reading Fire and Blood, I would get my World of Ice and Fire out and kind of look and see, okay, was this in this book? Because my very non-scientific method here, I'd say probably there's like 75% new material. And even some of the existing stuff, it seems that George just changed a little bit or added more detail, which we'll talk about here in a minute. In particular, about one thing that I think's kind of interesting that he changed. I'm not sure why. I mean, I think as we discuss it, we'll maybe discover why.
Okay.
But I'm like you. And the one thing that I would say about Fire and Blood is to me, it's like the perfect marriage of historical facts or historical events, relating those as like a maester would do, writing in a tome or as a scribe.
Yes.
And story. I mean, George puts some really great stories in here with quotes. He fleshes out these characters, even the ones that only get a few paragraphs. Like you get an instantaneous understanding of what they are like as a person.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of cool too. The where there was always like two or three different. Well, there was when it gets to the part where he's bouncing off mushroom, the septum and the maester, and he's kind of weighing all three. The who's supposedly the maester who wrote this? I already forgot. Isn't it
Gildane.
Gildane's the guy who did this one?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I like the way he was kind of weighing the different accounts and then kind of coming to a logical explanation, but it was still his bias. It kind of annoyed me at first, especially just having to hear like mushrooms, like ridiculous stuff. But then after a while, I kind of started liking it. But when I first started hearing it, I was like, I just can't stand.
See,
this guy.
what's interesting is I had the exact opposite reaction. Where at first I was laughing at mushroom, and then by the end I was like, okay, this is making these events seem more trivial.
Yeah.
He's funny. Obviously, I love mushroom, especially the part where he's talking about Cregan Stark, and Cregan Stark like arrests all these people, and Mushroom's like, I was too small, no one noticed me.
Yeah.
Like that was pretty funny. But no, I had a similar reaction, only in a different way. Like at first I was fine with it, and then after a while I was like, okay, Mushrooms needs to stop talking here.
Yeah.
But I do like the way it's laid out. I mean, I did see some people online complaining like, this doesn't give us answers, and people were like, really? I mean, this is a history book that is written, like you said, with a bias, first of all, or with people that if this was the real medieval time period, the real Middle Ages, they wouldn't understand what the truth is of certain events. So it's historical in that sense, that people are going to come with their own biases, or they're going to come with their very arcane knowledge of an event, trying to describe what happened, where the reality could be much different.
Yeah. Now I will say though, when it did hit leading up to the Dance of the Dragons, I know all that stuff was new material. Like how Aemon lost his eye. I don't think that was ever explained. And that stuff interests me. When it hit the Dance of the Dragons, a lot of it seemed kind of like, I'm sure there was new stuff in there, but man, there was points in time. And it's not a criticism of the book, because it's meant to be a textbook. But it's like one of those things, until something new catches your eye, I was just kind of like, like I've already heard it, but and it was only certain parts, but I can't even say that's a criticism of the book.
I agree with you. Yeah. Because like Sons of the Dragon, I thought it was going to be pretty much verbatim. Well, apparently there were some changes, so I had to go back and read them, read that section again. Dance of the Dragons, I did kind of skim through because I've read that so many times, but I don't remember where I found it, but I think someone on Reddit had posted some of the differences, so I was able to go back and find those passages and read them. But let's just jump right into it, because I'm going to start off with one of those things that we don't know perhaps the truth, and Gildane gives us, I guess it's 4 possible scenarios. But that's the letter that Aegon the Conqueror gets from Dorne.
Yes. Okay.
That's crazy. So like, let's just say the 4 scenarios that are presented is the Prince of Dorne appeals to him as a father, that let's end this bloodshed because we're both fathers and we love our children. I think the second one is basically a list of all of the nobles that they've either killed or captured, and basically a threat that there'll be more of them. The third is it was, I think it's the term was ensorcered, something like that, ensorcelled.
I know. Yeah, like it was.
it was written with magic and the blood of Rhaenys by the yellow toad. And then what the fourth one was a threat that will hire the Faceless Men to come kill you.
And I don't buy the Faceless Men one.
Well, so I don't either, because why haven't they hired the Faceless Men to begin with?
See, okay, so what I've so I don't know if I've understood the Faceless Men wrong or not, but from what I've understood is they basically, if you have to give up most of your own personal wealth to buy a Faceless Man, so you can't, even if you're rich, you still have to give most of your riches away for them to do a job, and it depends on, I guess, maybe the target and maybe not. And I think it doesn't depend on the target, because I mean, even Jack and Hagar said, yeah, I could kill Joffrey, I could kill, but it may be a year from now, maybe 5 years from now, but I'll do it. Now, I think that's probably a bias that maybe Littlefinger got wrong in the books when he talks about it. Like, maybe that's just he's not understanding exactly how they work. I mean, he has ties to Bravos, but I don't know. So I'm not sure if I'm getting that wrong or not.
Well,
so
but no, I think you're right, because as others have pointed out, the Faceless Men in some instances make sense, and in some instances they don't make sense.
Yeah.
Like, and obviously Littlefinger's understanding in a Game of Thrones is George's understanding, and that can obviously change dramatically.
Yeah.
Because he's conceived, okay, well, this is what the Faceless Men are, or this is what motivates them, or whatever, as he's going along with the story.
Yeah, because at one point there was a story told where a poor man, I think it was probably the founding, where he didn't have anything to give, so he gave his life.
Right.
So the other, because that's all he had, he gave up everything just to.
I think that's like supposed to be. People think that's the story of the doom of Valyria, like it was someone toiling in the mines and asked for mercy, and this person gave it to him, and whatever.
And that's where I think maybe, sorry to keep on this, but
no.
That's where I think people maybe get Euron wrong, because he says he threw a dragon egg into the sea, but a dragon egg, we know, is like basically priceless, and yet he's still bringing all these jewels and gifts off his ship. I mean, to me that just seemed like that's how rich he was. He gave up most of his wealth and still has all of this. And I think maybe people may get that misconstrued. Like, I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, and I think with the Faceless Men, it's if everybody was going to use the Faceless Men, then there'd be a lot of dead people at all times. So one, they can't because of a story. But two, I'm like you, I think there's so much, it's such a high price that even though you're rich, you're like, I'm not going to hire them unless it's, very important.
And it seems like you run into that problem though, because there's probably a lot of desperate people that would be willing to be like, hey, just take my life and then kill this guy. So
right.
So, and there's a hole in the story there. So I'm not really.
So one of the interesting things that Jeff and Emmett came up with, so they don't believe any of the four.
Okay.
I don't know if you believe one of them over the other. We talked about the Faceless Men.
I don't necessarily buy any of them.
Yeah, I don't either. So Jeff and Emmett talked about the fact that the letter was telling Aegon that Rhaenys is alive and she's been tortured, and we can give her the gift of mercy. We will end her suffering if you end this war. And I really like that, because there's that lack of knowledge of what happened to Rhaenys, whether she died instantly when she fell off the dragon, or when she and the dragon crashed down, or did she linger for a while? And so Jeff and Emmett said that, would that be something that would drive Aegon to flee to Dragonstone, be in solitude. It's his family's fortress. It's where the Targaryens started, if you will, in Westeros. And it kind of makes sense in a way if you think about it.
Yeah, I listened. I think I listened to that episode too, and I like that. I think
Yeah.
that. I mean, that one makes the most sense.
I
I
think
would
that
think.
makes the most sense. And further, it's George giving you the answer on the page, but the answer really isn't in front
Yeah,
of you.
yeah.
It's off the page. All right, so we're going to kind of jump around here. I think we've got most of our ideas in order, but things are going to come up here and there. But there's Aegon the Conqueror section, conquering the Seven Kingdoms, ruling the Seven Kingdoms. There's just some like interesting parallels here that I picked up on. This is one of the first things that I started to make note of. First, there is a moment where the sistermen declare their own queen and have to eventually overthrow her. And I think that's just kind of interesting because the houses that we've interacted with in the main series, House Burrell in particular, they seem like very dubious individuals. They are willing to turn. They were considering whether they were going to turn Ned Stark in when he came to their shore. Same thing with Davos. So I just thought that was kind of funny that they declare their own queen, and I wonder if something in the future, with whatever happens with the Vale in the north and Sansa and House Manderley and all that, could potentially happen there on the Sisters, where someone is declared a queen or a king. I don't think that's likely, but I just thought that was an interesting inclusion that George had.
It would be weird. It would definitely be some Iron Men, wouldn't it? Um, because
Oh, yeah,
they're
maybe.
in control. There might be something to that. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. So the death of Heron the Black leaves the Iron Islands gripped in a civil war, and the book says that the straits between all of the Iron Islands are choked with bodies, and krakens are rising from the deep to feast on them, which I think is obviously something that's probably going to happen in the winter, and
Can't wait.
can't wait for that. This was an interesting one. I actually thought I was onto something, and then Chloe pointed out that I was wrong. So Aegon leaves Lord Rosby as Castellan of Sunspear when they take Sunspear and parts of Dorne. And when the Martells retake the city and the castle, they gag him, bind his hands, and throw him from the tower.
God.
So I was like, okay, was he going to be like thrown? Is Giles Rosby, the one who's like coughing all the time?
Coughing his lungs out.
Yeah, is he going to be thrown from the top of King's Landing by like Tyene or one of the Sand Snakes when they get to King's Landing? And then Chloe was like, I think he's dead. I was like, oh, okay, sorry. But it was just funny.
Is he dead? Is he dead?
Well, that's what apparently what it said. And actually, I went and looked, and it was like he died. But I think it's just like he died off screen, like he went off page. Cersei finds out that he dies, and even might be while she's imprisoned. Qyburn tells her. I can't remember exactly, but yeah,
I can't keep track of how many people Cersei's thrown into the black cells either. Like,
so Lord Tyrell leads a huge force into Dorne and just goes missing. He and the entire army disappear, which I think, is obviously the Dornish killing them and everything, and things in the hot desert, you don't find them. And I just kind of wonder if like people are going to find out that Mace Tyrell is dead and his whole army is destroyed, and they're going to be like, well, what the fuck happened? And it's obviously going to be like Fagon, John Connington, and the Golden Company at Storm's End have just eliminated them. Just kind of not a one-to-one parallel, but something that just stood out to me.
And I don't know if you have it on the list. Let me look at this real quick. But the part okay, it's not on the list, I don't think. The part where the Baratheons are trying to charge through the mud,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
then they
That's yeah,
that
yeah,
could be what happened. Like, I think that's definite foreshadowing of yeah, the Golden Company and Mace Tyrell, because that's
yeah,
something we've talked about in the past, that
yeah.
that comes from Jeff,
That comes
right? Beefish.
yeah, yeah. He calls it the Westerosi Agincourt.
And there's
Which,
a example right there, you know.
yep, absolutely. Yeah, no, you're right. It is not on the list. I did pick up on that when I was reading it, and I think that comes later. Maybe Jaehaerys or Viserys, one of the other kings. It happens after his reign, during his reign, maybe after Aegon the Second. Aegon the yeah, it's Aegon. I think it's when Aegon the Third is getting ready to take the throne because one of the Baratheons support. Anyways, it's one of those.
No, isn't it? Sorry, isn't it? What's her name sitting? I can't. I don't know. I'm getting them all jumbled now.
Yeah, maybe.
Because yeah, the Baratheons are against her, and he comes down the road, and then the forces kind of stop him. I forget which forces, but
yeah, I can't remember which Baratheon it is. It's definitely not Rogar. He actually, he turned out
Orain.
One of them. Yeah, it's one of those.
This is the first reaction video.
Yeah, this is the first reaction, and it's been a week since I've read it, and it's been 5 days since Brett read it. So give us a break. Pirate King of the Stepstones, ferrying Dornish soldiers to the storm. Like that's. But I think that's definitely going to happen in some capacity.
The thing that I caught though isn't the Pirate King Salador Sand's grandfather.
Yeah, in some capacity, yeah, he's related to Salador. Yeah, I love it.
So I'm like, like, so the Pirate King could be Salador Sand.
Could be, yeah,
yeah. Which would be disappointing,
right? It could be, yeah. I want it to be Orain Waters.
But Orain could be a parallel to what's his name? The dude that sails around and defeats the
Open Fist.
Yes,
God, I love him.
Yeah, he's cool. I do like him.
Characters. We'll get to him here in a minute.
He's a Waters too, ain't he?
Yeah, he is a bastard, and is raised up. Yes. And then finally, in this section, Dornishmen begin to become a little more bold, and they start leaving their land and attacking the Marcher lords in the Reach, and they become very less effective when they leave their lands. You know, they have such a inhospitable terrain in Dorne that they know how to use very effectively. When they leave it, they're not as effective, and so if Dorne sends thousands of troops north, I don't think they can compete with Dothraki and dragons and all that when they face Dany and her forces in the future.
They're very much guerrilla warfare based. Yes. Like they're good at what they do, but
yeah, I'm sure they have some skill, obviously, in battle. I mean,
well, they're spearmen. I mean, they can definitely take on horsemen. You know.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on here. We've got a lot to get through. Septon Moon. He
remind me again who he is.
He's the Septon that is kind of like the holdout. The holdout rallying the faith. He's got a lot of peasants and stuff outside Old Town.
Okay.
Lord Hightower won't do anything to him, and so they call him the Cock of the Moon because he just beds everything that moves.
Yeah, that guy was awful.
Some girl, some camp follower or whatever kills him supposedly, and then vanishes. And so, actually, I haven't listened to it yet, but LML had a live stream with some guests about who killed Septon Moon, so I've got to go listen to that.
Yeah,
but
he was definitely
disgusting. I can't.
Yeah, I did like the Maegor stuff. Like,
yeah.
He was just interesting. He was very interesting.
Jaehaerys the Conciliator. I think that we had an episode several months ago, that was talking about the excerpt that came out about Jaehaerys and Alysanne, and there was some questioning as to whether he was going to earn his conciliator title, because he, at that point of the excerpt, he's negotiating between Pentos and Tyrosh, and I think he really does earn it.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. I mean, he's kind of already earned it
yes, he
when
earns it. In my opinion, he kind of earns it from like the moment he takes King's Landing. Like, he
yes.
immediately says, "You're imprisoned. You're a traitor. You're pardoned. You're going to the wall." You know what I mean? Like,
which I don't want to brag, but I did call that. I'm like, when we were talking about how he was not really succeeding at first in that little short chapter, I was like, well, maybe he's already earned it, and
yeah,
then
yep.
this one's a little more difficult, and he's
Yeah, and I think the great thing about the stuff that we find out is that, and actually George said this when he was asked, I guess when he was asked to expand more on the Targaryen kings, it appears that Jaehaerys is one that he really never wrote. And when he was confronted with writing Jaehaerys, he was like, how can I write about someone who was so successful and there was so much peace and prosperity? Like, how can I make that interesting? Well, I think he finally came to the conclusion that, just because you have a long reign and you're known as the conciliator and you've done such a great job doesn't mean that you have, you know, some very profound problems that you face. And he
yeah.
faces a lot of difficulties through his reign, but he always seems to overcome them either through his guile or Alisane's abilities, or Septim Barth's abilities, or even Rogar's, his mother's, whatever.
Well,
Um,
except for one, and that
yep,
was his daughter. That one of his
Sarah.
daughters. Yes, Sarah. Yeah, Sarah. Yeah, yeah, and that kind of made me like him a little. I still like him, but it made me like him just a little bit less because I was like, man, like I don't know. I just couldn't imagine being a father and being like that. So
Yeah, it's hard to imagine as a father being like that. Although I will say the way she acted, I was like, what? Really? You got to be acting like this? Get your ass into a brothel. No, I do not support that. I would not stick my daughter into a brothel. But
but
no, I
but
agree with you. It's unfortunate that he wasn't able to,
it
like. It's interesting because he was almost like an absentee father to her, but
yeah.
maybe I don't know. I can't really say he was.
It's like he really didn't he really didn't support her in the way like she's like Arya, but it just went
That's
wrong.
a
Like
great.
it
Yeah,
just
that's a great point, because
it's like because
people who
Ned kind of
have multiple children, even people who have two kids, like friends of mine, or coworkers of mine that have like two kids, like they know which child needs more care and which child is, can do things on their own, can deal with things or whatever. And if you don't give that child who needs more care or more attention, then they're going to get off track very easily.
yeah.
Uh, so, and I shouldn't say he was an absentee father to her. I'm not really even
He
sure that he was necessarily a great father to the rest of them either.
yeah, I think he just didn't really understand her, and then I think he had expectations like and that caused stuff between him and Alysanne to have
Yeah.
problems like just they're gonna marry and she's like no they should probably shouldn't
Right. Right. And she's like, no, uh, the one girl is better, better with their other son or something. I remember that one part
yeah,
where,
yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, I mean
All right.
he had his shortcomings, but
Yeah.
I mean I think he was overall good, but he definitely made some huge mistakes with
Yeah.
yeah.
So one of my new favorite houses, new favorite characters is House Farman, and Alyssa Farman. I loved them. I loved um, the description of Fair Isle and the castle there, and the history of that family. And I loved Alyssa's voyages. Like I would,
Okay, yes. Okay, when
you
you
know,
said the voyages, it
yeah,
clicked. I was like, who is that?
love to know where she went.
Yeah.
You know, we get the birth of the sea snake here, and a lot of the sea snake, and
Yeah.
who remains a favorite character of mine. But I love that moment where he's in Ashai and he sees a ship that he thinks clearly has to be Alyssa's ship. He thinks that it's Westerosi. He thinks that it matches the description. I just love that, and I think she's a really good character.
Hmm.
Uh, and would love to see more of her. There's a lot of, as you know it, there's a lot of. I want to be a Grand Admiral. There's a lot of sea voyaging in this book. I loved it all. It was great. Um, Septon Matthias, huge asshole. That guy was a total dick. He was the one that was basically telling Jaehaerys that he would fail and people would throw him and Alicent down.
Oh yeah, that guy. Yeah.
And when Jaehaerys finally comes of age and comes to King's Landing, he's like, pack your bags, you're out of here. And I love that. I love that image of him crossing the Mander as Septon Barth passes on a donkey. There was a moment where the description of Rhaena and Arya and Alyssa on Dragonstone really reminded me of Stannis, Shireen, and Davos, where Rhaena was just kind of like cold and bitter and secluded in Dragonstone like Stannis is. Arya, before she became very willful and acted out, it was said that she kind of the castle and the gargoyles became her friends, which is
Oh
kind of
yeah.
like in the beginning when we first meet Shireen. I think Maester Crescent
Yeah, even Crescent. Yeah, Crescent says something about him.
kind of says something about like the girl made this her home and made the things around her friends or whatever.
Yeah,
And
even
then
Crescent
and
was like, I see it. It used to creep me out. Now I see it as an old friend or something.
right. And Alyssa, kind of like the Davos, the person that longs for the sea, the person that's there to kind of consult the Stannis figure, and the person that interacts with the girl, interacts with Arya. That was just something that like there was just a moment of that. Of course, whether the Arya and her sister being switched is real. I'm not sure if that's real or not,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
she seemed very, very somber and quiet when she's on Dragonstone, and then kind of changes. So, but it kind of jumped out to me as Stannis, Shireen, and Davos.
I don't know if I'm skipping ahead, but
No, go ahead. Yeah,
the
we're all over the place. Do what
oh
you
okay
want.
the part where is it Reyna uh that has the husband that she hates,
Oh
and
yeah,
then
Andro Farman. Yeah,
okay,
there's a Farman I didn't like. Well, there are two Farmans I didn't like. Him.
I it's so it's kind of bad. I felt so bad for him, kind of, and I mean he did start poisoning people, but like,
Yeah,
but before if maybe if he didn't resort to that, but but
right.
but dang, like she was, I don't know. I mean, I got this, this is coming on. I didn't really read between the lines, so I don't know if he was a bad dude or not, because I would kind of just listened to this once, so I could have missed something, but initial read, I was like, man, like,
No, I actually agree with you. Because there's even the point made throughout the book where they say something about like Reyna never offered her husband a ride on her dragon.
yeah.
Uh, like he was just kind of there,
And
and
then
now
he
his
tried,
react, like you said, his reaction was totally terrible and
yeah.
poisoning people and all that. But
Now I don't condone it, but like
no, no, no.
when he's just, well, obviously, but when he's just when he's just like offering like, hey, I could help, and she's like, what are you gonna help with? Like, all you're gonna do is what, fall, I don't know, fall off the dragon or something,
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
and then it's just like, and then he's just trying to, I don't know. I mean, but then this is like an everyday thing for him. I could see how he might snap, but I don't know. I mean, that's a little far,
Yeah,
or maybe really far.
really
But
fun. So the origin of Danny's eggs. Um,
oh yes, I did catch that, and that's my when I first heard that, I was like, wait a minute.
yeah, yeah. I mean, Alyssa Farming clearly takes 3 eggs to Pentos. Whether she sells them there or goes on to Bravos and sells them, we don't know. But that's the fortune that she gets to build the fleet
hmm
and pay the men to help her sail west.
What I what I did like is how it was Jaharis, right? He was
Yeah.
saying if I hear anything about hatching dragons, I'm gonna go over there.
Yeah,
Or
yeah. But he also says the part about like so a cheesemonger magister in
yes,
Pentos
yes,
has
yes,
3 stone dragon eggs. What a
yes, yeah. It's yeah. So I mean that's gotta be George being like. But I know there's red herrings in there too. But
yeah,
I'm not sure. Like I'm not sure why that would be a red herring. You know, like
yeah.
unless there's some other like weird big reveal with the three
Right.
dragons.
Well, and it is interesting because I guess some of the PR material that was produced for Fire and Blood said that we would discover the origin of Danny's eggs. Because
Oh,
I remember Jeff posted a bunch of stuff and there were a lot of comments back and forth. People were very excited about it. And then George comes out and says, "No, that's not accurate. That's just PR. We don't discover the origin of Danny's eggs." Well, is that, you know, George threading needle and saying, "Well, technically it doesn't
if
say that it's Danny's eggs."
if those are Danny's eggs in his mind, that is the closest he's come to outright lying,
Yes.
if
Yes.
not actually lying, because like
Right.
he usually doesn't. But
Right. Love it. So here's one of the changes that we alluded to earlier. This is an interesting change. I don't know why he did it. I mean, I think we're going to talk about maybe why he did it. So Jaharis and Alisane's second child. If you look at the World of Ice and Fire, if you go to the Wiki of Ice and Fire right now, their second child is a daughter named Alyssa. In this book, George changes that second child to Daenerys,
hmm,
and Daenerys dies of the cold. And I just think that's interesting. Why did he make that change? You know, why? I don't know why. You know, I've seen some people speculate, oh, it's foreshadowing. Other people speculate, oh, it's a red herring. Um, I don't know. That's just interesting to me
yeah,
that
I
he
didn't.
did
I
change.
yeah, because I didn't read the World of Ice and Fire. That's something I didn't catch. So
Yeah, yeah,
I have to look into that too. I have to
yeah. It's
look at
interesting.
some theories and stuff and see what people are saying about it. Yeah, that's pretty. Yeah, that's a good catch.
Um, Queen Alisane's laws.
Mm.
She does some great things to reform Westeros and make life easier for the citizens. Obviously,
I'm
the
I'm glad I remember the right to the first night and how they still practiced it on Dragonstone,
yeah,
because
yes,
I didn't
yeah,
know if I remembered that correctly. I said it in an episode, but they reset it in this book. I was like, okay, I was
and
right.
obviously Bruce Bolton still practices it in the North.
Yeah.
Uh, but she also changes the what is it the rule of thumb or something where you can beat your wife.
Yeah, which
It
is
has
that's a real like
Yeah,
medieval
that was a
law.
real rule. That was a real that had real basis. First Night had basis as well, although it apparently didn't really occur or occurred in very few instances in the Middle Ages. It was
Yeah,
more of an ancient law.
yeah, that's why Braveheart is like
Inaccurate.
they did not. Yeah, but
Moby Dick is in this book.
hmm, I did not
Review.
catch that. I did
So
not catch that.
when um when Oh, geez. Lord Hightower's son, one of the Hightowers that sails with Alyssa Farman. So he comes back into port in Old Town and goes to see his grandfather in the Hightower, and he's telling everyone the story of their voyage, how Alyssa kept going, or not Alyssa, geez, how Ilissa, yeah, I'm sorry, Ilissa, not Alyssa, Ilissa, kept sailing west. They found a chain of islands, 3 islands, Aegon, Visenya, and Rhaenys, she named them for, but he gets his brother, one of the other Hightowers, dies in a storm, which actually the men see a kraken come up in the storm, which some people are saying is like actually a Cthulhu reference from help me out here. Who does the
what is it? Lovecraft.
Yeah, H.P. Lovecraft. But at some point, Hightower tells the story of how they came on a pod of leviathans, which are whales, sperm whales in particular, and a large bull white male in their ship. And I just love it.
Like I remember that. I remember that. I remember that because when I first, I'm an idiot because I'm like, what is a leviathan? And then they kept describing it. I'm like, okay, it's a whale.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I think it's a sperm whale.
Oh, okay. But yeah, I at least caught that it was some type of whale or dolphin. Like,
like, yeah. So here's where Alyssa Targaryen comes back into it. So remember that we said originally Alyssa was Jaehaerys and Alysanne's second daughter. She now becomes the 5th child in the lineage in Fire and Blood, and she has she has shades of Tyrion. She's got mismatched eyes.
Yes, I noticed that.
The broken nose. Does she have like a big head? Like there's some other deformities.
Yeah, I think I don't know, but yeah, I didn't catch the broken nose being a reference to Tyrion's because the minute I heard broken nose was that I thought of Baelor for some reason.
Interesting.
Just because that was one of the features described on. I don't know if that has anything to do with him, but
yeah,
that's so. But paired with the mismatched eyes, yeah, that makes sense. God, I need to quit saying that makes sense.
That makes sense. Yeah,
that's my coin. It's my coin term now, I guess.
Love Jaehaerys. Getting very passionate about infrastructure, about building roads and bridges. I love that. Just the fact that he comes in and he says, while I'm on top of my dragon, I look down and there's no roads that connect people. It's just goat paths and game trails that we've used forever. I want some friggin' roads.
Which was, I mean, like any major empire in the world that's the first. I mean, well, not maybe the first thing they did, but that's what set them apart.
Absolutely, you had to have a way that connected your territory. Allow armies to move quickly, for supplies to move quickly, for trade to happen, and for people to feel safe, people to feel, that they had a safe path through different kingdoms or different areas, regions in order to get places. I mean, that's absolutely important. And, one of the things that Alysanne also does is she provides the water for the citizens of King's Landing. She has that well. And the water piped in. So that was another great thing. We have another exiled Connington in the story, Red Roy Connington. Yeah, he's barely mentioned. I don't remember in what context he's mentioned, but we get an exiled Connington. So here's a change to Sons of the Dragon, and I remember I said that I didn't read the Sons of the Dragon first because I thought it was going to be verbatim. But if anyone knows at Lady Dane on Twitter, at JoJo Dixon, she's very active on Facebook and Twitter. But she pointed out, I saw a tweet that she said, and I hadn't yet, like I said, I'd been beyond this point, so I had to go back, and I tweeted her and I said, hey, where are you talking about this? So as is it Anus, whatever the fuck his name.
Anus.
Right? Right. Wasn't he married to um shit, who was he married to? Anyways, he's making his royal progress in the Sons of the Dragon. What is there, like a bug in there buzzing around?
Yeah, there's a ladybug trapped in here somewhere, but it's like, oh, it's flying around the light up
Oh yeah,
there.
they'll just constantly buzz around the light like that. And they also have that hard shell where it like clinks against
Yes.
the light. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very
Now, okay, so it was warm today, right? So on my parents' balcony, uh, there was like 50, literally 50 wasps came out
oh
because there's a wasp nest somewhere, and they've had this house for like 2 years or something, 2 or 3 years, and they come out every summer, and they're not even aggressive, but they're everywhere, like wasps, like red wasps, and we've been trying to like exterminate them, and like
they
there'll
just
be
keep
like there'll be like hundreds dead, and then yeah, they just keep coming back. So I'm like, y'all need to hire some professionals. but but yeah, no, so I was just like, that's the first thing I thought of because I just it's
yeah,
traumatizing
yeah,
to me, and I'm like,
yeah. You don't one of those buzzing around at night in your bedroom.
yes,
Anyways, so there is in Sons of the Dragon, it's commented that there is a so hold on, I want to look this up because I want to make sure. Yeah, Reyna was married to.
also these names are,
Oh, there's a lot of them.
I'm gonna have to buy the I didn't want to go to the store and get the book right away. And so I was just like, well, I'll just pay like $14 for Audible and just get it, and have it downloaded the day it comes out. So that's what I did. But I'm definitely gonna have to buy it on paperback because the way I the way I say certain words, like instead of saying deal, I'll say dill.
Yeah.
And like, so like people and mill, instead of saying a mill or a meal, it's just all mill to me. So,
Yeah.
and then the names are the same way. So I'm just like, if I ever start talking about all these names, I'm going to confuse so many people.
Yeah. Okay, so it was Rhaena Targaryen. So
Uh,
Rhaena, when she's married to, yeah, Aegon,
which Aegon?
Aegon the Uncrowned, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
So he's not, yeah, he's not like the second
He,
or the
he's
third.
the
He's
one
just
killed by Maegor.
Yes, okay. Yeah, see that, okay, that's where it gets confusing, because
Yeah.
if they're not a king, they don't become a third or a
Right.
fourth,
Right.
right? So,
Okay. All right. So, it's Rhaena when she's married to Aegon the Uncrowned. They're making a royal progress through the Riverlands, and there is a redheaded Melanie Piper, who was very close to Reyna. Now, I'm not sure. I mean, this is a Piper. This is a highborn lady, potentially. But uh, JoJo, Lady Dane, was like, is this Melisandre? Yeah,
ah,
redheaded Melanie. And if you remember, Melisandre remembers Melanie Lot 7 when she was sold into.
wow.
And so, again, I didn't see it. I had to go back and
Oh my
find.
God.
And this was an addition. So this was a new addition to this book that George put in. Um,
Wow.
did not it did not even appear in the Sons of the Dragon novella that was published in the Book of Swords last year. At
and
this,
and hasn't he said that she is very, like, she's older than, like,
right?
she's at least a few hundred years old or something?
Yes. So this would put her, depending on her age in the story, this would put her about 250 years old. If this is her, 250 years old at the time of A Song of Ice and Fire.
Which JoJo Dixon, I know she's listened to a few of our episodes, so
Yes.
I don't know if she's a regular listener, but
I think she is. I mean, sometimes she'll make comments, and I think she encouraged us to get together in the
well,
beginning.
she did. So
Yeah. But yeah, I just thought that was interesting. And again, Melanie Piper, who knows? I mean, I actually thought, and I told her this. I actually thought that the story of the one girl that was assigned as a maid on Dragonstone to Alisane, the girl that's apparently been a slave, been a sex worker.
yes, yeah.
I thought there was going to be something there where like that girl was going to tell Alisane that she had a daughter in Volantis and the daughter was sold into slavery, something like that. Like that was like that. I thought that was where Melisandre was going to come into it. It didn't happening. All right, so this is something I want to get your take on because I want to see if you had the same reaction. So I want to talk about Power of the Wolf. Going into the book, that this was what I was most excited for, to see Cregan Stark. That moment where he walks into the throne room and everyone just shuts up because here he's finally come with all of his men. They basically tell him, you need to turn and go home. And he's like, I got all these people out here
Yeah.
who want to die. They want to fight and they want to die. So I'm going to have to go destroy Storm's End. I'm going to have to tear Casterly Rock down. You got to give me something.
Yeah. Loved it.
Yeah, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. The only thing that I will say, and I can't remember who I was talking to on one of the Facebook pages, but it's not what I expected.
It isn't.
It's and I know like looking back, I was like, okay, he only was there 6 days. It's called the Hour of the Wolf, so it was a short time period. He arrested a bunch of people. He tried a bunch of people. He executed some people. He moved on. So I don't know what I was expecting. I want people to know I'm not disappointed. But the one thing that I kind of wanted was more interaction between Aegon III and Cregan, because I kind of wanted to see Aegon III kind of like adapt that. That's sort of how he became icy and cold.
I love Aegon the Third.
Yeah.
I just yes, and it would have been cool if they hung out a little more because Aegon the Third kind of does the same thing as Cregan. He puts his feet down. He's tired of it. He's wise beyond his years. It seems like.
But he's also distant. He's got this aloof. We come to find out why. I mean, he watched his mother die.
He hates dragons.
He hates dragons. He blames himself for his brother's death that he thought happened.
And then his.
So I'm like you. I really liked Aegon the Third. I was very, very surprised at how well I liked him. But I kind of always knowing just how kind of cold and distant he was, I wanted Cregan Stark to kind of rub off on him, and it just wasn't. And so that's really my only disappointment. But it's not a lot.
Yeah, because it makes sense. Like it makes sense. But it would have been cool if like they it's kind of like Stannis and Jon are so much alike. And then when Jon's about to behead Jaina Slint, and he kind of looks over at Stannis, and Stannis gives him the nod, something like that. Like not even that he rubbed off on him, but he's just like, we're the same.
Yeah,
you and I.
He acknowledges. Yeah, that's the only thing I wanted. Other than that, I loved the fact that we get the story of the Northerners. They've come to die. They have nothing left. They want to fight. I love that they spread out. They spread into the Riverlands, and then they go. Some of them go to Essos and
they start the what is it? The Wolf Pack.
When I read that, I was like, "Oh, really? Okay, okay." It's an awesome name. Yeah. But I also love that he was going to behead like what 30 some people, and then he offered them to go to the wall, and they're like, "Oh wait, me, I'll go to the wall."
He didn't even offer. Some guy just said, "I choose the wall," and then he was like, Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and then everyone else heard that, and they were like, "Wait a minute, take me, I'll get to the wall." And so then he had to like listen to all of their grievance or all of their requests, and yeah, I like that. I did like that. Although I did like that he chopped off those two guys' head and mounted them.
A lot of the problems that come after Cregan Stark leaves, though, like wouldn't have wouldn't have
Yeah,
happened if he had stayed,
yeah,
at least, because I mean, like, freaking poor whoever the Hand of the King was, um that Aegon the Third had, the good one, not the douchebag one, but the because it's the people who displaced the Peaks. Yeah, the Peaks. Hate the Peaks.
yeah. Hate the pigs. Hate the pigs.
Because they displaced. It's kind of funny too, because didn't Cregan get rid of him and put in charge a Manderley, or they voted on a Manderley?
They voted on Amanda later. No,
Oh, okay.
doesn't
Okay.
one of the Lannisters comes back? The Lannister who's blind and
Yeah, but didn't
hooded.
he?
That's after Cregan. He's the hooded hand. He's at or
Yeah, well, okay, because there was a Peak, and then they got rid of him, and then I thought I might be
no,
getting
the
this wrong.
Manderley comes. Yeah, the Manderley comes.
He's not the one that gets tortured. Oh no, Manderley. Oh, Manderley gets chosen afterwards.
Right
After after
when
they
the
get rid.
Regents take over.
Yeah,
Like
and
the
then
Regents cancel.
okay, so what's his name? The Peak guy Cregan dismisses, right? And then
Unwood Peak.
yeah, so yeah, Cregan Stark dismisses him, and then another guy gets chosen. That's the guy that gets tortured because he was committing treason because of the they had the
Oh, that's so Cregan Stark is hand. He then Tyland Lannister becomes hand. He's the guy who dies, and on his deathbed, Aegon sits with him.
yes, and he's the guy that got tortured during.
He was tortured by Rhaenyra.
Yeah, which is Aegon the Third's mom.
Aegon's mother, right? So he dies, and he's referred to as the Hooded Hand. I kind of liked him because he
wasn't bitter.
He wasn't bitter. Everyone kind of like dismissed him, but he was quiet. He was thoughtful. He was measured in how he reacted and responded. I like that.
Yeah.
So Unwin Peak then becomes hand after Tyland. Yeah. So Marston Waters was a member of the Kingsguard.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, he was the guy that was under Peak. Well,
yes.
kind of.
Yeah, he becomes hand of the king after Thaddeus Rowan is arrested for alleged treason, and Marston is ordered to arrest a bunch of those people, and that's when he encounters Aegon the Third and his brother standing on the Red Keep saying, "No, we're not opening this gate."
And he's like, "Don't come past this axe."
And so then he eventually. Marston then eventually turns on all of them and arrests them, and it's kind of alluded that Unwin Peak is the guiding hand off page that probably orchestrated.
That was my favorite part of the book, honestly.
Really?
Like, just because like it was all new to me, and it was interesting, and it ends with like a cool like fight where you just see this king just turning against like the law, like, I mean, basically, like, you see these people trying to take advantage of them. I really did think one of the sisters was gonna, or no, is it one of the sisters? One of their sisters was gonna swoop down on a dragon, though. I really thought that was gonna happen. It didn't happen. They just
sisters, Rhaena or Bela.
Yeah, I really thought that was the plan. And it didn't happen, and I was like, oh man, that would have been so cool.
Yeah.
But having the area Hota type guy step out.
Oh, that guy.
Because I mean, he does. He kind of reminds me of. I mean, kinda. I mean, he does. He
kind of like a combination of like Strong Belwas and
and
Ilan
Ilan.
Payne.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was gonna say Ilan Payne too. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, because he doesn't have a tongue. He doesn't speak. He's a pit fighter, like Strong Belwas,
yeah.
and then he is very dark skinned and huge, like Ariahota.
And he doesn't seem like a lot of people are afraid of him, but he seems very loyal and like
Right.
kind of like
Yeah.
Area Hota and
Right.
well, actually, kind of like all three of them. They're all kind of really
Well, there's like one guy he just like pushes off the bridge.
yeah.
Oh. um. Yeah, Unwin Peak was just a terrible, terrible human being. I hated that motherfucker, and I'm so
Yeah.
glad that the
The,
Peaks lose so much in the future.
yeah, the Peaks are probably my most hated house. I know the phrase are like
That's interesting. Yeah.
I know the phrase and the Boltons are way worse, but at least they're fun, you know.
Yeah, they're the fun type of villain you can get behind. The Peaks are just they're
They're
just like greedy bastards.
yeah, and they hurt the Manderleys, and you
Yeah.
know I'm just not okay with that.
Ned Bean, Black Bean.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, the Ned Stark, Sean Bean, like
Yeah, yeah.
that how George came up with his name, and he really didn't do much. I mean, he was just kind of there to sell with Gorman Peak, and of course Alan Oakenfist just made fun of them because one was vomiting over the side and the other one like, couldn't sell worth a shit. Alan Oakenfist, one of my new favorite characters. I love that
Yes.
he's just, so cocksure coming into
I'm
the throne room and
I'm so
attacking Bravosi and doing all these things. I just love it.
and I'm so glad Aegon the Third did what he did because when Oakenfist got back, they like he had warrants out for his arrest.
Right.
So I'm like, because I was like, oh man, he's gonna die. Like he's gonna get like this is gonna end badly for him.
Yeah.
And I was just because he did all this epic thing, and I'm like, that's what I was expecting. I'm like, he's gonna get back, and then he's gonna be tortured, and he's gonna be missing half his teeth, and he's probably gonna die. And even if he gets arrested, he's gonna be broken.
Right.
So
I love the name and I love the character Recalio Rendoon, the pirate that Oakenfist has to deal with. Like that's just a great name.
yeah. Oh God, he was
the Queen Recalio or something.
yeah, yeah, and he would have like fits of like rage and madness, and then one day he's like his best friend.
Yeah, that's right.
And then he kissed him, right? He gave him
he gave him a kiss. Yeah,
or
yeah.
no he wanted he said he had to. I forget the terms.
Yeah, he offered. Yeah, he wanted to kiss him, and like Alan basically says, when you come to Driftmark, I will host you, and you can kiss my wife or something like that.
Yeah, and it was good enough.
Okay, all right.
He just seemed. Oh my God! Like, yeah, that guy. Man, they can make a TV show about him.
Yeah. So this was a what the fuck moment, but Alice Rivers.
Yes. Wait.
What the fuck?
Wait, which part is that?
The one where she comes out of Harrenhal and the guy's head explodes.
Oh yeah.
You don't know, like they can't say whether it was like a crossbowman that shot him or the thing, or she waved her hand and it was some kind of blood magic.
I was thinking it was one of the because then they played the suggestion out. Some it's like a sling with a rock, like a.
Oh yeah, that's right, yeah.
And
yeah,
I was under the impression it was just that.
Okay, well the book says that
yeah.
They couldn't figure out if it was that or if
something else.
Yeah, and so they just like the army just turned and left.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't know. Yeah.
That was a lot. I didn't expect that. Of course, she's the same. That part obviously wasn't in Dance of the Dragons because it happens after. Mm-hmm. But she has an heir apparently there to Aemond. She has a son with her, and she's also in Dance of the Dragons. She saw that that Daemon and Aemon would battle. She saw that in the fires.
Yeah,
Like the God's Eye. So she's got some kind of ability. I just don't know what that was all about. It was crazy.
Damon. I always when I got to that story, I was really paying attention because that's my favorite part of the Dance of the Dragons. Like Damon just jumping off his dragon, stabbing Aemon. The freaking because I kind of felt bad for Aemon until he killed what is it, Jace? Or was it Jace? It was Jace, right? It was one of the little boys. But I felt bad for him until he just did that. Like he just like like it was just it's like dude, it was really his fault that it really got so bad because he's the first that was the first like major death. That was the first Targaryen killing another Targaryen, pretty much. I don't think the kid was a Targaryen, right? He was technically, but first family member killing the other,
right?
And but the main what the fuck moment was I forget the name already, but the girl who gets on Balerion,
Arya Targaryen.
Yes, that scene. I don't know. Like, I think it's pretty obvious she went to Valeria, but what was that? I don't know. Like, it was just.
So JoJo actually has a really great theory on this. I don't know if you saw it.
I did not.
So,
I've actually haven't been on Twitter a lot this week
because you've been moving and all that.
Yeah.
So JoJo believes that she's infected with fireworms. There's clearly something that attacked Balerion because he's got that gash.
Yes.
On his body. There's something coming out of his body, wiggling and all that, and when it was put on ice, it dies. The Maesters put those worms or whatever on ice.
Yeah.
But the way the skin is described, it's like crackling like pork, is the way it's described, and that's exactly how Victarion's arm is described after Makoro does something to him.
Yeah.
And so JoJo's theory is that Victarion has these things in his arm now. Yeah, it's a lot.
God.
It's great because, like I said, it's kind of the same description, and George uses those. He's very clever when he's making allusions or parallels, but when he describes something very similar and uses the same, adjectives and descriptors and all that, it usually means it's the same thing happening again or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's just very interesting. But I definitely think it's Valyria. I mean, it has to be something in the fires, something,
It just seems like it was brought up too many times in the chapter too.
Yes.
Yeah, I know there's red herrings, but I mean, it's just where else would Drogon fly if he wasn't spotted on Dragonstone? He wasn't spotted. Like, where else would he fly?
Right. And it's interesting because did she go there, or did he take her there?
I think he took her there, kind of like how Drogon just takes Dany somewhere.
I was just getting ready to say, like in the show when Tyrion and Jorah see Drogon and he's flying over Valyria.
Yeah.
So, like, why was he there? Like, are they drawn there or something? It's just very interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, speaking of Valyria, we get 2 new Valyrian swords, I think. I don't think these have been mentioned anywhere else. Unwin Peak's Orphan Maker, which is a great name, even though it's Unwin Peak's name. And Rhaegar Baratheon's Truth.
Yes.
which is interesting because I've never heard of a Baratheon Valyrian sword.
Yeah, I haven't either. Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. And
Uh,
then do we go ahead?
oh no. Well, I'm kind of going back to, uh,
Yeah, jump back.
uh, but I like you were saying, like in the show, you spot Drogon over Valeria, and obviously that's not the they don't take that way
Right.
in the books. But are you there? Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
your camera lag, but in the in the books, Drogon does come back, but he takes a bunch of wounds in the fighter's pit. But I
Uh,
wonder if he had wounds before.
huh. I don't know.
And yeah, I don't know like if there's a way to tell. Um, but he definitely does have wounds like afterwards.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that's where he was, because you have a good point. I don't know. I don't know if there's a way to ever. I don't know. I'll have to like reread them and see, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Just something. But
Yeah.
anyways, getting back
I mean,
to
could be something like Danny notices in the Winds of Winter that some wounds that he have look older than others or something. That might be something George
yeah,
uses.
yeah, yeah, it
To
could
use
be.
something like that again.
It is. Like what? Wonder what happened to the Baratheon Valyrian steel swords.
Yeah, I don't know. That was just interesting that was in there.
What? Yeah, one thing too. I wasn't really aware of how the Baratheon line was started. I thought later down the road they were made into a. Well, actually, that's not even true. So I thought they came over with the Andals, and then a Targaryen. I don't know. Like I used to think they came over with the Andals because he's always described as an Andal. I think, or maybe I'm just I don't know. But yeah, I did not know that they were just he was a the Baratheons were a bastard brother of Aegon. That
Right.
but I thought
Yeah,
that was cool.
I have that same question. Like, where did the name come from?
Yeah, yeah. Like
Like, does it mean something? But is someone on Facebook was like, I think it means the bastard word and the word bastard in Valyrian.
well, yeah. I mean, now that I'm like listening to the name Baratheon, Targaryen.
Sounds- yeah,
Yeah,
Valerion,
yeah.
Celtic. It sounds like it would have some kind of Valyrian ancestry.
And it starts with a B, so it's probably yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I do think that's interesting.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I just, yeah, I totally like. I didn't know that. Yeah, it was just a name that was. Thought the name came from Westeros or yeah, and it was Andal or something. I don't know,
right.
or Andal because but
Yeah. We also I think get a new Valyrian house in House Roger.
hmm.
The Lysini we were talking earlier, the Lysini brothers that take over court, um, the Saras's wife.
Yes.
So it says that they can trace their ancestry back to Valyria.
Oh.
They're great merchants in Lys, or Lys, however you pronounce it. And so I just wonder. The way I read it was a Valyrian. Um, it was a Valyrian house. It was a
Hmm.
house with Valyrian ancestry.
Huh. That's cool.
Kind of like the Valerians or the Celtigars.
Hmm. That's cool. Yeah.
So, Brett, throughout the book, George is really fleshing out some of these female characters that he's written about before, either in The World of Ice and Fire or mentioned in A Song of Ice and Fire. He's expanding female characters. He's adding Alyssa Farman. He's adding stories and sections with Targaryen daughters. And he does something in the book where he really lays out these pretty terrible winters that kill off a bunch of the men, these wars that kill off a bunch of men, and kind of really sets up to where it's women that sort of restore peace, restore families, restore, I guess you will, the realm itself. They bring them back. And I think we see a parallel, don't we, in the main series?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I think Danny could potentially do something like that. I mean, I'm not sure what, but
Well, you got the potential for Danny, you got the potential for Sansa,
oh yeah, yeah,
Arya,
yeah, I'm not, yeah,
Brienne, all of them, not just
yeah.
Targaryens, but all of these women in the main series that I think potentially at the end of the day are going to be very, very important to how the war with the others and etc. is going to go, but also how do they reshape Westeros? How do they rebuild it? How do they reform it? It'll just be
Yeah.
really interesting to see.
And
Um,
all I can think about in this is yeah, all of them. Now that you've pointed that out, like all of them, but then you have Cersei, who's tearing it all down. She's doing exactly the opposite.
that's right. Yeah, that she is the one character. I mean, there's obviously other female characters out there that are maybe either not
I
going to be
mean,
around or
I mean, even
wouldn't want to.
well, oh, sorry. But I was gonna even say, even Asha is actually helping the realm out just by being
Right.
herself. I mean,
And you think part of this, the fact that George, sometimes gets criticized for not having enough female characters or not having enough female focus. I mean,
mm,
I, I think he's writing about a medieval society and he's using that patriarchal system, as a pretext for this is what happened to women. It depends on where the end of the story goes. If
yeah,
he continues that type of problematic usage of women or misogyny or whatever, but I think we have to give him a little bit of a chance to get there and show that these female characters are important.
I think he's doing a good job with them, but I don't know. I don't think they are a result of him being criticized or anything like that. I mean, maybe a couple of them, but I mean, I mean, I guess he did start writing this in the '90s, so maybe. I mean, I don't think if he was criticized, I don't think it's like recent criticisms, if
Yeah,
that makes sense. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't
Well,
know.
and he could have always had this. He's building toward this natural progression. Like he was always going
Yeah,
to do this. So I think I lean toward that he was always going to end up somewhere there because I mean George does not strike me as misogynist. He does not strike me as anyone that would not value women. I think he is very progressive in that idea.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. Like, I mean, the original pitch letter didn't. I mean, it probably didn't have too many female leaders, but I mean, it had like the love triangle with John, but and Tyrion, but I don't know where. Never mind. I don't know where I'm going with this, but
Okay.
it, it was just more like I maybe it was a little bit of like a criticism after a while. Like that's when he started adding in more women to his stuff, but it seemed pretty early on still. Like,
All right. So final thing, unless you have anything else.
no, I think
I don't want to end on a downer here, but I just want
yeah.
to point this out. So this book ends in or about 136, 137 AC. There's about 147 years left. That's about even. So it's 147 years until Robert's Rebellion and the fall of the Mad King. But we still have 20 years of Aegon III's reign to go
hmm
and 10 more Targaryen kings. So I really hope George can get Fire and Blood done in one more volume.
I'm actually I don't care if he wants to go
Oh yeah,
3
no, I
volumes
agree. I'd be fine with another book, but
as long as long as I think I mean he's already said like T-Wow's the next book. Like he
right,
said
right.
and I don't know, I just hate that people kind of like rate this book bad and they're like, "Oh, like you can't like if you're stuck on one book, it does help to like switch to something else and
It
make
does. Yeah,
so I
and I
mean,
think
I don't think
some.
this book slowed him down any. Like I
I
don't
don't think it slowed him down. I think it probably actually helped him.
yeah.
It 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 allowed him to play out probably some of the things that he's been working on in the Winds of Winter or thinking about in the Winds of Winter that he could play off and say, okay, does this make sense? Does the way I describe this or the way I set this in history, is that going to make sense for what happens in the Winds of Winter? Did I make a mistake in doing this, or sometimes when you're, and again, I don't think George is not writing the Winds of Winter. I think he's written too much, and he's trying to figure out how he can fit it all into one book,
Yeah.
and kind of cutting the extra material in order to say, okay, I can live without this. I got to put this in there. And so some of this stuff that some people are picking out and thinking might be in the Winds of Winter might be absent because he said, I'm going to shift that story to Fire and Blood.
That's a good point. That's a good point. I didn't think of that. I
Yeah.
kind of wish he I mean I don't know what's going through his mind, but I hope it isn't like, oh, I'm afraid I'm not going to get this series finished, so I need to cut stuff out just to shorten these books so I can get it done in 2 books. Like I'd rather have him do whatever, write batshit crazy stuff like and just
Oh, I do too. Yeah, I do too. Yeah, I would be fine
like
if he announced that I've got to have an 8th book to get this done. Okay, great.
yeah.
Or I would even say to him, write all you want in the winter. Keep everything in the Winds of Winter, and just print it in 2 volumes. We'll pay it. I mean, we're not gonna not.
Yeah. Yeah.
No. Do what you got to do, George. But take your time. We want you to take your time because we it's your world. We just live in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, man. So I think that's all we can say about Fire Blood. If you
Yes.
haven't read it, read it. If you're one of the people out there that has given it a negative review, and I mean, I don't even know why people are allowed to give a negative review or review at all if they haven't even read the fucking thing. Like that's what I hate about Amazon and Rotten Tomatoes and all
Oh,
this.
dude, I don't even listen to movie reviews a lot of
Yeah,
the time.
yeah,
Like,
can't take it. I can't take it. I mean, I went on Amazon and this only has 3 stars, and I'm like, what? And it was literally, why isn't this the Winds of Winter? Why is this a dry history? This was terrible. And I'm like, first of all, I was like, they submitted their review on the day it came out. I'm like, you did not read this book. It took me hours. Like I told you, I
yeah,
spent like 9 straight hours reading it one day.
yeah. The
Don't,
Audible was 26 something
yeah,
hours. Like,
yeah, yeah. Come on.
and
That's
and that's going through it once, like
right.
to absorb everything.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
yeah, I don't understand it too because I mean, he clearly has stated, what it was. Like, it's
Right.
not like he was like, you know,
Right.
get ready for the
And I
next crazy story. Like, no,
and
this is a
even people like Jeff who, was honest and said, "Yeah, I'm really not interested in history." Even he was like, "This was really good.
yeah.
This was actually there's a good story in here if you just sit down and give it a chance."
Yeah, I mean, there was definite parts I kind of zoned out, but that doesn't mean I'm not going back through it. I'm
Right.
definitely going to go back through it, and it's just because, and it's really just because I didn't know what was new and what wasn't, and I didn't know what was important, what was not, and now that people are talking about it on Twitter and Facebook and stuff, now I can like pick through theories and then go back through it
Right.
and actually dive into it. Um, and I don't know. I mean, I enjoyed it. It was something new. So, and yeah, I mean,
Okay. All right.
Well,
so you want to take us out, brother?
all right. Thanks for listening and for joining us again. Please find us and like us on Facebook, Instagram, and follow us on Twitter at Planetos Podcast. You can listen to us on iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, YouTube, and other platforms. Email us at planetospodcast@gmail.com if you have any questions. The intro song is Jungo's Ballad, and that's by myself and General Rivas. And the outro song is called Smack, and that's by Bleach Garden. I'm Brett. I'm Brett.
And I'm Travis. See you around Planetos.
Oh, no,